So my name's Zach Taylor, and I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. I lived there 18 years of my childhood, and as a result, my visual language and the color palette that I use in my artwork was like forever changed. And over the past few years, I've been making a bunch of different series exploring masculinity, and I can talk about that later because I don't have time to talk about masculinity up here. But tonight I wanted to explain to you this project that I call 18 Plus. And 18 Plus is a series of photographs taking inanimate objects and spotlighting them in suggestive situations. And they're inspired by advertisements that I saw as a child, either sexual or otherwise, that either went over my head only for me to understand them later, or that as I grew older, I just became aware of sexuality around me as a whole. And 18 Plus is obviously a reference to being 18 or older in order to view this type of work. So I began by, oops, did I go the wrong way? Yep. So I began with this photograph. So I started collecting objects like this. So this one's called Fuzzy Seat, and it's just a fur stool that I found at a craft store in town. And then I take it home and I light paint it with long exposure light painting techniques. So I'm physically adding with flashlights and gels colors specifically where I want them. And it takes these objects out of their unnatural or just as an object and puts it into the sexual spotlight. So it becomes this performance of an entertainer, if you will. And it's referencing those sort of advertisements that I saw advertising for strip clubs and erotic shows around Vegas, as I said as a child, that I didn't understand. You know, one example I give is always wanting to go to the library and my dad telling me that he'll take me when I'm older, only to realize that the library is a strip club. So things like that. So stories like that I just experienced throughout my childhood, and kind of that there is a big sense of humor with it now. This is my bowling ball, and so it's an object that you normally wouldn't sexualize, but through the process of light painting it, I've spotlighted it and it becomes a performer and an entertainer. This one is a keytar. And so some of them you have to dig deeper in to see the sexuality in them, but that's kind of what I'm getting at, is as a child I saw these things and I didn't know what they meant. And then as I got older, I understood, oh, that's a penis or that's a vagina. I don't understand what that is. It was a slow revelation of what was going on around me as a child. And it's kind of an exploration of my subconscious. This one is a calculator flipped upside down that says boobies. I think everyone at one point in their life has flipped a calculator and written boobies on it. And being a child, that's something that we do, and we don't really understand, again, that allusion to that sexuality. But that as you get older, you know what you're talking about, and it becomes a totally different aesthetic. This is a boot shiner, and I fell in love with this object because why the hell would they make it chrome with a red tip? It's just super weird. Why not just make it black? And so I show this object, and people are immediately associated with sexuality, but really it's just a boot shiner. And it's kind of that weird play that I walk around town and I just find objects like this, and I take them home and photograph them for this project. This is my bedroom lamp, and I just love the shape of it and the color, and I knew I could get some really crazy shadows out of it and that it would kind of dance in this weird way for me, and so I just had to photograph it. This is a condom dispenser, which over the past year I've become obsessed with condom dispensers. I think they're just so wacky and weird. Like, I call this shot bathroom attendant, which is what's it called? A reference to bathroom attendants in Vegas, which they're in every bathroom as you go around. You can buy like a stick of gum from them or a card if you forgot, like a get well card. They just stand in there all day and they sell stuff to you. And I just kept seeing these everywhere, and I was like, I gotta get my hands on one of these. And that's why the internet is great. You can buy anything there. And so I got this and I photographed it. And it's a good explanation of how I play with light by hiding objects inside of them, which gives that pink glow, or that green glow, excuse me. Again, all these are shot in camera. I don't Photoshop these. These are done through light painting techniques. So this one is probably a 5-minute exposure, and I work completely in the dark. So if I get bored and I can't figure out what to do, I'll just sit there for a minute until I figure out which color to hit it with next. And I'm walking around the object in 360 degrees as I'm painting it. So it literally is a performance between me and the object. This one I call Electric Banana, and some of them I just figure out the picture when I find the object. So I saw that voltage reader in a thrift store, and I was like, I'm gonna hook that up to a banana. And that's where this image came from. And so I'm drawing with laser pointers to get that circle around it to make it the illusion that it's actually working. This one's called Milk Perfume. This is an example of two different things, one combining two objects together. So I don't usually combine objects, but sometimes I'm photographing them alone and they just don't work. And this one I was like, forget it, just put it on top. and I ended up with this shot. It's also an explanation of using UV light. I love using black lights because technically our cameras can't see black light, and they really do some wacky stuff with color, and I really love color. This one is open. It's just an open sign. Another thing that I've been obsessed with is open signs, the neon nature of it, the word, plus the hula girl. I've finished reading this book called Stripped by Bernadette Barton, and in it she references a lot about minority groups being targeted by the sex industry for the taboo nature of sexuality. And it's a really fascinating book. She's become like one of my heroes. I think she's super cool, but she talks a lot about stripping and that whole idea. And so I used red light to reference Red Light District along with it. This one's called Meat Grinder, just a hot dog and a children's meat grinder toy. I love using children's toys in my work because the scale of them is just awesome. They're so small, and you can do some really weird things with perspective. But then also, I'm just obsessed with children's toys because of the violence behind them and the weirdness that we give these toys to our kids. I mean, look at the image, for instance. It's a ground-up hot dog. I mean, it's just violent in nature. This is just a slice. It's a pineapple with army toys. Again, the army toys being a reference to that childhood violence, that masculinity that I'm talking about, and the colors, I just love them. Along with the pineapple, which is such a sensual fruit in general, the slice of it, the juiciness of it, the explosion of the stem, it becomes this sexual advertisement that it never was meant to be. This one's just a pencil sharpener. I don't think I have to go into it too much, but I just love the circles on it. That was the first time I was playing with kind of like spotlight flashlights, and I got these really weird circles with it. This one's called Drip. It's centipedes. Again, you can buy anything online, which is super cool. So I bought these centipedes online, and then they were all stiff because they were for biology, so I actually had to boil them. And then they softened, and I could move them into which direction I wanted. And this is a good example of me playing with light, because this is the first image I tried with triple exposures. I'm now getting up to like 5 exposures in one shot, and people don't know what that means. It means that it's layering the images each time I take a picture. So I did 1 shot for the green, 1 shot for the honey, and then 1 shot for the dip. And they all layered together in my camera, and that's what came out in the end. So I'm really playful with photography. I'm not traditional with it at all. I like seeing what my digital camera can do. I'm fascinated with the colors it gives me. And then this one's called Sunday, and just a cactus with whipped cream and a cherry on top. And that's about it. So just to reiterate, I mean, this project is just about defining desire. It's looking at desire through a lens of innocence, and it's walking this line of childhood ignorance combined with mature awareness of sexuality around us. And that's what this project is all about, is kind of my subconscious, my childhood, but also just as I've grown older, seeing sexuality around me and seeing other people around me. It's everywhere. It's not just Vegas. That's just the epicenter of it. So, thank you. Thank you.